What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Best Show Ever podcast, the podcast where I interview folks about the best shows they've ever seen in their lives. I'm your host, Cam Hurt, and we're back with another great episode this week, guys. I had to take the podcast back from my brother, Kyle. He did a great job hosting the podcast for that one episode, but I had some notes, and I just figured it's best off that I just continue hosting the podcast myself. And so that's what we're doing. And I've got some very cool guests this week. I feel like I often will say something along the lines of, this is a very special guest, or, this is a very cool person that I'm interviewing. And for the most part, that's true. I mean, I've got to interview some very cool people on this show. Today's episode is a very good example of that. This is a very cool musician, very cool artist that we've got on the podcast today. It's Maggie Rose. Maggie is having a huge year. Rolling Stone just named her new album, No One Gets Out Alive, as one of the best albums of the year. She's currently on a headlining tour, the No One Gets Out Alive tour. I mean, but she'll be opening for Dave Matthews Band as well. She'll be opening for Tedeschi Trucks, playing some festivals coming up here that we'll talk about a little bit. But Maggie is such a cool person, such cool stories about going to shows, and is just killing it right now. If you're really interested in hearing some beautiful music, please turn off this podcast and go listen to some Maggie Rose. And definitely go catch her live when you can. I haven't been lucky enough to catch a show yet, but I was lucky enough to get to chat with her today. And she's got some great shows she's seen. Believe it or not, Maggie Rose, huge Fish fan. Tom Marshall himself said that her album's a masterpiece on Twitter. And they actually, on this album that she just released, Don Hart, who works with Fish and works with Trey, arranged all of the strings for the album. So she has a very close relationship with Fish, and talks a little bit about the shows that she's seen for them in the past. So Fish fans, this one's for you. If you're listen to the podcast and you've enjoyed yourself so far, if you're listening on the Patreon, I just want to say thank you for that. If you've subscribed to the YouTube, or if you've rated the Spotify and the Apple Podcast, thank you for all of that. Thank you for the support you guys have shown. Got new stuff coming in because of it. I got a new mic. I got some field mics coming in because of the support that you guys have shown on the Patreon. And so I just want to say thank you for that. If you're looking to donate to the show or support the show financially, the Patreon is the best way to do that. You get $4 a month, and that gets you episodes a day before they come out everywhere else. It also gives you a bonus episode every week. Like this week, I'm talking with Connor, the Niche Mar, and we talk about the beginning of Fish Tour. He went to these recent Mansfield shows. That's the best way to do it. And so if you'd like to donate to the show, if you'd like to be a part of the show in that way, be a member and be a big fancy pants in that way, the Patreon's the best way to do it. You can also subscribe to the YouTube and rate and follow and all that kind of stuff. That's really appreciated. It really helps us out, get to a whole bunch of people who just want to hear about some good shows. Maggie herself has had a podcast on this network, on the Osiris Network. It was called Salute the Songbird, and she interviewed a bunch of really cool women within the musician scene. Susan Tedeschi, Grace Potter, Karina Reichman, Jen Hartswick. So it's very cool for me to get to interview Maggie and take a little bit of time while she's having this huge year. And so that's enough intro out of me. Step out of the way here. Enjoy this conversation that Maggie and I have. But first, here's a little bit of music from Cal Kehoe, some unreleased music that he doesn't have out yet, called Down. Enjoy a little clip of that. This is a good hang. This is how I like to hang with my friends. I like to kind of just figure out Wi-Fi and audio.
Yeah, that's a great way to just get to know people.
Someone.
Fiddle with some Wi-Fi connections and pairing devices.
This is odd, and this is a little out of left field, but now that I'm thinking about it, the first time on the first date that I went on with my girlfriend, who I live with in this place now, we had to fuck around with her Wi-Fi box for like a long time to get like
Yeah.
TV on, And so that is that I do really well messing with Wi-Fi and audio on a first hang. I
The
think that
key
leads
to
to
intimacy, everybody, is,
it's
you know, try and solve some technological problems together. That'll
yeah,
bring
do
you
a couple, like,
closer.
"What about now? You hear me now?"
Yeah,
Or
right, yeah. Can you hear me now? What the world needs now is just to come together over these issues, these tech issues. Maybe that's the
exactly.
answer all along, Cam. We
I find
figured
that
it out.
people usually they usually listen to the episodes for the technical issues. Like, they'll listen through a full episode and be like, it felt like you guys were talking the whole time and there was never an issue. I
Yeah,
guess I'll try again next
A
week."
plus. Well, you sound great, you look great. I
Hey,
haven't gotten kicked off yet.
hey,
It's happening.
same and same.
Mhm.
Um, we were talking a little bit about tour before. We were talking about you playing new songs, and this is a challenge, playing new
Yes.
songs on the
Yeah,
tour.
it's a challenge to you release a new album and you wanna make sure that you're featuring all the songs, and it's one thing to sequence an album for that listening experience when people are listening to recorded music, but it's another to put a set list together, and it's all about context. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about Fish is that you go to that show, you're getting that specific set list for that evening. But with the No One Gets Out Alive tour, we're trying to be a little more consistent in how we're presenting this new music. But we just hit the road. Our first show was in May, and I feel like we've just by moving one thing here and trying a different position there, like we're getting to that sweet spot where it's starting to feel like, we've got our sea legs and people are into
Yeah.
it.
Is there like a level of when you're rehearsing these songs to perform live in a live presentation of the songs? Is there a level of like, well, there's part of this we're gonna figure out while we're out there. Like, there's part of this
Yes.
that we're gonna, yeah,
Oh yeah, it's so symbiotic. You can't really feel like you have the show together until you've dared to suck in front of a live audience a couple times. Like it's a very mutually beneficial relationship, and the songs don't come alive until you perform them in front of a live audience. You think, oh, this is gonna land so well, and then you are confronted with the truth of how a live audience receives it, and that's part of the thrill of it as well. I think when during the pandemic, I was trying to put my album Have a Seat together, and I didn't have that tool of being out on the road and playing this music consistently in front of an audience. I felt really kind of insecure about some of my decisions because I feel like it's such a good litmus test for what's working. And I want my audience to give me those indications. So I felt like I was in the dark a little bit, and it's been really fun to be touring so actively now.
definitely. And I'm sure. I mean, that happens in comedy too. Like, any SNL writer you've ever heard talk on a podcast or anything has talked about how they feel like they know what works when they're at their apartment. They're writing sketches and then they go try it in front of the room, and then like the one that they liked bombed, and then the
Yeah.
one that they're like, this is a throwaway, is like, you know, the greatest sketch of all time. Like, you have no idea while you're sitting at your house or while you're writing or while you're even rehearsing, like, what is gonna work. Are there any songs, that you feel like the audience, took to more than you expected, or you're like,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
So there's just one song called Thinking of You, and it's got a really catchy melody. It kind of has like a Cindy Lauper vibe. And
mm,
when I wrote it with two of my friends, Chuck and Claude, we're like, yeah, this feels like that almost like anthemic 80s rock, Chrissy Hines sort of thing.
yeah,
But it was not like a single. It was sort of just a album cut that I knew would for the collective make it a more cohesive project. But people just are vibing to it in the audience. I think like I can see them moving to the chorus especially, and that was a fun thing to see, just that it's sort of become a standout favorite. Uh, no, there's other songs that I think resonate more now that I've switched the position of them in the set list. Like there's this one song called
mm,
Vanish that's super introspective and it's maybe a little bit more heavy emotionally. And we used to have it in like the first five songs when we started the tour. and I realized I was like, I need to ease in to this song, like the intimacy. We didn't get to go through the technological issues together as an audience and singer.
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
waited till, we had gotten more acquainted and put that song later in the set. And it's just, yeah, workshopping. And I feel like the most informative moments are like for friends of mine who are comedians, it's those nights that they bomb because then you need to know how to improvise and react and fix it. And that's also one of my favorite things about watching some of my favorite jam bands is seeing them go for it. And like when they land, it's awesome. But then when sometimes you're like, oh, like, are we gonna get through
Yeah.
it? And then they're kind of careening off the rails and then they get back in control. Like that takes real skill and musicianship and people willing to take chances in that urgent, very live atmosphere.
Oh yeah, I mean, just the trust that they've gotta have with each other. Because yeah, they get, like you said, careening off the cliff nearly, and then, like,
Yeah.
stopping right at the end, and then maybe taking a hard right sometimes, and,
Like that
like,
shit is exciting. Yeah.
yeah, and you don't realize what you like, as you're watching a show, you don't almost know what you need to see next, you know? And, it's really as a performer, yeah, you're hopefully in control of all of that, but there's a level of, like, you have to let go. Like it's an interesting point made about like putting a song, in a different part of the set list because you do the same thing in comedy. Like if you've got a joke that you're like kind of like stepping over a line here, or I might
Mhm.
be like saying something that's a little risky, you should probably earn that joke. Let's not
Right.
start with that joke. Like let's like let the
Yes,
audience get there with you, like you said, build a relationship, and then they'll allow you to kind of like open up in that way later. And that's a risk. Like it's a risk to put that song later in the set.
for
Like
sure.
you're changing up everything.
And I think it also yes, it's risky, but it also makes it all that much more forgiving when you realize like the fluidity of it all. Like I'm gonna try this tonight. We have this bond between audience and performer of music, and like they wouldn't be showing up to the show if they weren't, trying to have a good experience. So, try it and see if it works and have fun. Like I think that knowing that everything can be subject to change is a very freeing idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like you said, it takes so much of the pressure off you. Like your decision is what made this crowd not react to this, or like your decision is what made them react to it. It's actually not the case at all. Like
Yeah,
it's also fluid, and yeah,
it's all good. Yeah.
it's all good. That's great. Well, listen, I could talk with you about this stuff all day long, but that's just not what the podcast is about. The podcast is about the best shows that you've ever seen in your
Yeah.
life. And so we'll be getting into those a little bit. Before we get into your best show and your honorable mentions and all that stuff, what's the first concert you ever saw in your life ever?
First concert I ever saw in my life was Shania Twain. I was
Whoa.
about 6. Come On Over was the album, right? That's the name of it. And she was just like the hottest thing ever. And it's now called Jiffy Lube Live, which is great name, great name.
Awesome
Uh,
name.
in Manassas, Virginia. And it was an open lawn situation. We are all very familiar with that. And my friend Alicia and I were just sprinting to the front to get our blanket down in time. And I think we tumbled down the hill, but that was more efficient. We got there faster. And it was amazing. She had this yellow outfit on, it's like imprinted in my mind. And she was larger than life to me at the time. And uh she played for quite a while. It was a gorgeous summer night and we were off to the races.
Yeah, that's one of those, like, really big acts from our
Yeah.
childhood that if you got a chance to see her. I mean, even that, and she's still, like, a massive icon, but in that time, like, when we were kids, yeah, she's on top of the world, and so, um,
Well, and she
what
was like definitely terraforming what it meant to be a female artist in country music. Like she was bringing it to like this level of commercialism that was pretty unprecedented. Like she and Faith Hill and then the Chicks after that, like all these
yeah.
people I've, gotten to see and I didn't know at 6 years old that I would end up moving to Nashville and kind of be in a similar stream as them for a minute, but, um, it was like a full-blown pop star production, and up until that time, you hadn't really seen that level of choreography and pyrotechnics and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Huge production value. Yeah, that's not a small show. And like I think um those things like leave an imprint. Was it all Shania Twain after that, or were you looking for other concerts? Like, was the
I
bug
was
caught?
looking for all concerts all the time.
Yeah.
Returned to that venue many, many times over my high school career to see Dave Matthews Band. I think
Oh yeah.
probably like 12 times, and I get to open for him over Labor Day weekend at the Gorge. It's a very
That's right. Wow.
full
Man.
circle moment, pinch me moment. I know, holy shit, I'm so excited. And that venue is incredible. I went there years ago, so uh, just to return there is a dream. Um, I saw some pretty chill concerts for at a young age at Wolf Trap, like Mary Chapin Carpenter, who I
Mm.
always thought was a great songwriter. Destiny's Child, I had to see them when they were
Oh,
together. Yeah, whoa.
wow.
Um, and now I go see I probably see a concert every week just because I feel like it's a fun thing to do. Even if I don't know a lot about the band, it's like a study for me.
Yeah.
But I did love just like that was the thing to do with my friends, especially in the summertime, was go see concerts, find some lawn tickets that I could afford in high school and hang out and be in that musical environment.
I mean, it like in these early days, like when you're going to concerts, they serve a bunch of different purposes. They serve like the purpose of going to hang out with your friends somewhere. Sometimes it serves the purpose of like early days of partying or like trying,
Yeah.
like
Oh, for sure.
drinking or trying drugs or whatever it is. These are also like super inspirational events that can really strike a chord in you really early on. What like um was there a level of that last part like in any of those shows, or were you just like I need to go see shows with my friends?
Yes, there was definitely the environment too that these concerts facilitated and the freedom that I felt like getting in a car and driving, an hour away, which felt like, we were on this big adventure to go to this venue that I knew so well at that point. Pre-gaming in the parking lot and, all that stuff that like that lot life became so much part of it that there were some concerts I know I went to that it was definitely secondary, but I loved the environment.
Yeah.
You know, I went to probably a lot of like country concerts that I could have remembered or not remembered, but it was the environment and the atmosphere
Yeah.
of being with my friends and being uh independent and also in an atmosphere where like people who love music are just like a certain way, a little bit different from the normal crowd that I was exposed to all the time growing up. I was a Catholic schoolgirl from kindergarten to senior year, um, very well behaved and hardworking, and it was cool to be around all these creatives. And uh, I felt that also when I moved to Nashville when I was a 19-year-old. I was like, oh wow, I'm in a community that is really comfortable with this vulnerability, that's really collaborative. Um, it was nice to feel like I'd found really like-minded people. And I felt that even more as I got exposed to like the jam scene, just because of people's attitudes about, inclusivity and treating one another a certain way. It's kind of like a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Oh yeah, definitely, and like a dedication to the music. Like there's so many shows that you go to where there's a lot of people there to hang out. Or it's like a very cool thing to do in the summer is like go to this show on the lawn and go see XYZ act or whatever. But like, yeah, in the jam scene, people are fucking locked in. You're out of place if you're
Yeah.
not one of those people, you know?
Well, and it's just something that's so much bigger than oh, I really love this single. There's like a movement and an exchanging of ideas, and just there's so few things I think in life anymore that are like, this is the moment. You had to be there for it. You can't watch it on demand. You can't like
Yeah.
like you have to be there, and that is so precious to me. That's why we work so hard, my band and I, to stay on the road, because that live experience is urgent and it is fleeting.
Yeah, it's so clearly needed for folks. Like you see it in people's faces when they're there. They're like so relieved to be there. And they're like you said, you mentioned the freedom earlier with your friends. Like, yeah, there's a freedom of stepping into that world. It is not always concerts aren't always the best environment. Is there like a worst show that you ever saw in your life or like a worst concert experience you can remember?
Ah, yeah. Okay. So it was an amazing concert, but something unfortunate happened at Bonnaroo. I had the best spot. I was watching Robert Plant and Alison Krauss.
Yeah.
Whew, like I'm like shaking just thinking about how incredible it sounded. And the weather was good. Like there was no reason, nothing was gonna get in the way of our good time. Something happened where they looked over to check how much time was left, and I think a stagehand held up the like 2 fingers for 20 minutes, and it was a misunderstanding. There was only 2 minutes left. So then the
Oh,
show ended, and everyone's standing there just like, "Oh my god, I swear we have, like, all this time left for, like, more songs." And then I think because of just the nature of that festival, like, you have, like, a limited time for changeovers and all that stuff. I'm not really sure what happened, but I was just standing there, and I think everyone around me was just wondering, like, bewildered, like, where's the rest of the music? But
ugh.
it was so incredible, them together, their chemistry, like, what I did get to see, and I was playing Bonnaroo that year as well, so I remember I did something crazy so that I could be there when that show started, so I got to catch everything that they did play. But, uh, I wish that there was a better clock that was just that was displaying how much time was left, so that there was no confusion.
Yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, there's nothing worse than like when set break rolls around and you're like, ah, not right now. But then at least there's some more show, you know? like,
yeah,
and
at least there's more show. There was no more show, and,
oh, brutal.
it was just, I guess scarcity, there's something to be said for that, because I've wanted so badly to see both of them on stage together since. Uh, I did Beyond one year, after this, and Alison Krauss was on the bill and Robert Plant was headlining, and I just was like, come on, we're gonna see 'em
Please.
together," but she had to go to another, show quickly after her set, so that didn't come together. So I'm still waiting, and I'm pining for this. So maybe it's all part of the bigger plan to make us want even more of Robert Plant and Alison Krauss than we
I was
already
gonna
do,
say,
which is just hard to do.
Robert Plant knows the formula though. You know, Led
Yeah,
Zeppelin went away, and now we all worship Led Zeppelin so much because they're good, but also because they're not here.
right.
And he's like,
Mhm.
you gotta leave him wanting more, even within a set. Sometimes you just gotta,
Yeah.
you just gotta
The last
leave
thing
in
you
the middle
ever
of the
want is for your show to be over and people are like, "Man, that was good, but it could have been a little shorter." Like, that's
Yeah, no.
you've failed if that's the case.
That is like I don't know, I think I have, like, 10 examples of friends from Chicago who put up, like, a one-man show in Chicago, and I'm like, "I cannot wait to see this," and then it's, like, a 2-hour long, and I'm like, "Hey, man, you can't do this to people." You
Yeah.
can't you can't just leave people out here for so long, no matter how good it is, and it
People need
wasn't good enough
water.
for 2 hours.
They're getting dehydrated. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta think about your audience a little bit. That is brutal, and honestly, that's the first worst show ever that isn't the artist's fault, really. It's not really the
No.
artist's fault. Not your
Mm-mm.
fault. Not
Mm-mm.
really the
And
venue's
like
fault.
I'm speculating as to what happened for the drastic cutoff, but that was obviously a lot of people were trying to get answers in the crowd, and that
Mm.
was the rumor that everyone ended up circulating, that it was just like a miscommunication about how much time is left. Uh, Also that year, maybe a different year, I was playing. No, this was in 22. I was playing on the Hulu stage, and I was so
Mm.
excited. It was like this big slot that I had been really looking forward to. I remember logistically, like we flew in, even though I live in Nashville, I had to fly in the night before to make it. And we're like, all right, we got the big stage this year. And then this dust storm came
Oh,
through. They had to shut the whole farm down, and they didn't open the gates. And then we kind of started, and the gates were opened after our first song. So we were performing to like, you know, not a very big audience, but then we could see,
oh.
it was kind of epic because we could see all the people running over the hill to come towards our show by like the middle of the second song. It felt like people were like charging the battlefield, and that felt kind of good. But I was like, come on, damn it. Like just you want all the stars to align so that you can have the best show ever. But it was a memorable moment, and I thought that the show wouldn't happen at all because the storm was so dramatic.
That is a pretty epic visual though of thinking like the angry mob coming over the hill.
Yeah. I was
The
like,
not angry
come.
mob,
Yeah.
the like
Yeah.
tripping mob coming over the hill
Yeah.
trying to come see you. I've never done Bonnaroo, but I'm going to be doing it for the first time next weekend.
Oh, I'm excited for
And
you.
some
It's a really special festival. I love, it's a beautiful place in Manchester, and
mm,
they have it figured out. It's
yeah,
been a long time. My husband went to
it's
the
been a
first
long time.
Bonnaroo ever where Fish was performing.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
know.
I mean that thinking about Bonnaroo in those days seems like such a cool experience, and it's still. I mean, it's like this massively blown out thing now, and like the lineup is insane, and every day is amazing, and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But yeah, those days were probably super cool. Do you have this? We can kind of get into honorable mentions with this a little bit, but do you have any shows from Bonnaroo that were like some of your favorite shows that you've ever seen? Where I mean, it seems like you were getting to see some acts while you were performing there, which is awesome.
Yeah. And I've also just gone in the years I'm not performing. I've seen Tool there, which
Whoa, nice.
I lost all my friends, and it didn't matter. I was like hugging the stranger next to me because their visuals and just everything was, it was so awesome. I think it was the second time I had ever seen them. Um,
Whoa.
but just the level of production, all the visuals that they put together for it. And as a singer, like it breaks my brain trying to figure out how he even sings along with the band. And it's just musically, it's like something that's totally out of the realm of what I feel like I'm capable of doing. But I love that. I love that I feel like it's so almost like academic going to see them.
I was just gonna.
But
The word
it's
that
like,
comes to mind is calculus. Like it's just like
yeah,
you know.
but in a way that it's like, I don't, it's okay. I'm not going to figure it out, but I'm just like letting it totally overwhelm me, and I'm
Yeah.
going to go with it. And, it's kind of dark and twisted. And then earlier that day, I saw the Chicks, and they're like the opposite, and we're so
Right.
wonderful. Um, and like my childhood was just like totally harkening back to me. Um, and then Brandy Carlisle, I saw her at Bonnaroo. She was
Whoa.
incredible. Saw Stevie Nicks at Bonnaroo. I've been really lucky to see. I saw Fish at Bonnaroo a couple years ago. That was awesome. Um, I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of people. Oh, the first time I ever saw St. Paul and the Broken Bones was
Mm,
in the tent at Bonnaroo. That was cool. And I was doing like Grand Ole Opry at the Bonnaroo for the first year that they ever did that, which was like me and
cool.
Old Crow Medicine Show, Nikki Lane, and kind of trying to
Yeah.
bring a little bit of that experience to the farm. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty cool festival to kind of have in your backyard. But I've done a lot of festivals, and uh, ACL, getting to see Miley Cyrus and George Strait on the same day. That was kind of fun. You're just like,
Wow.
yeah, it's the variety of it. You have to just be really malleable and kind of ready to go wherever the day will take you.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfect if you have a super wide taste in things, and yeah, that like is a pretty full circle day if you if you
Yeah,
like music at
it's
all.
a
To
good,
see Miley Cyrus and George Strait in the same day is a wild lineup.
yeah. But then you're like drawing comparisons and, oh, how did they make that same space look so aesthetically different from one artist to the next? That is another thing about festivals. It's not like you're bringing your own, like all of the gear is your own. You kind of have to be able to adapt to the
Yeah.
physical space that you're given.
Do you change your show up at all when you play a festival with your band, or is it a similar show or
I think for festivals, we got to change it up a little bit. With the No One Gets Out Alive tour, we've been doing our own headlining show, which is like 90 plus minutes. And for a
yeah,
festival, you might get like an hour slot or 45 minutes, and you're trying to sort of what you just said, imprint on a lot of new fans. I think it's an opportunity to get in front of people who probably don't know who the hell you are, and like they're here to see another artist, but you get to kind of latch onto the opportunity to expose yourself to them. And you want to make sure you're putting a set list together that's going to like cast a wide net and bring people over to
yeah,
maybe want to learn more.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love going to see an artist at a festival where I'm not necessarily there to see that artist, and then walk away like, man, I really wish I knew more of that music because that was amazing. And that, yeah, like that's a cool opportunity to have. It's awesome to have people there like excited about the new album, screaming the lyrics back at you, wanting to hear particular songs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, an opportunity is a great way to put that.
I feel like
Do you have
after a lot of shows, sometimes people be like, please don't take this the wrong way, but I had no idea who you were, and we love this. I'm like, no, I love it. That's why we're here. Good. That means that we did our
any?
job, and now you know. Welcome to the club. Join us.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a nice compliment. Man, where have you been? Is
Like, who
like a
the hell
great
are you? Never heard of you. It's like, now you have.
you're like, "I don't do the marketing, so it's not my fault." No, just kidding.
It is my fault.
Um, do you have any other honorable mention shows that were impactful in any ways?
Yes, I have to mention Gamehenge.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know I saw your post after, and I got a lot of like angry texts from like one of my friends, Galbuta, who I write with. He's like, "Fuck you, we're not talking for a while." Like, no way, like because we kept saying it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. He's like, "No,
Yeah.
it's not. Put it out of your mind. Like, just quit dreaming." And then let me focus on. Also, he's my friend, and he was just jealous and talking shit.
Of
But
course.
being in that room and seeing it like dawn was electrifying. Like I saw full grown men start to just burst into tears, and you're
Yeah.
nodding at me angrily.
Yeah,
Like
you guys
you're
can't see me on the other side of the screen, but I'm like,
he's
"Uh-huh."
nodding sort of angrily. I know this is an auditory medium, but I can see
And I am
Cam's eyes just
crying.
sort of, well, it was truly, and watching Austin, my husband, just know that like one of these things that he dreamt about was actually coming true. And he was sitting with me in the airport that morning explaining to me all the reasons that he was so sure it was going to happen. And I just didn't want to like affirm too much. I was like, hey, it's going to be a great night regardless of what happens. Okay, we're going to have
Right.
so much fun because we've gone to see them during the MSG runs like many years, but we've never gone on New Year's Eve until this last year.
Mm.
And we didn't know, but we watched all the streams every night leading up to it. And you started just like making notes on which songs hadn't been played yet. And then I could just see him on the night of January 30th. He's like, all right, like it's happening, and we're going to be there tomorrow when it does. And it was pretty awesome. It was pretty epic just
There's
to
been this
witness it. I'm
there's been
sorry.
this thing that's happened, and it's you're doing it right now. Of people come on, they're like, and I saw Gamehenge, and so, and they're like a little like, and I'm so sorry. It's like you guys like got like, yeah, we did get to hop in a time machine and go back and see the Beatles, and I'm so sorry.
We've all
And
been traumatized by some of the reactions we've gotten from people. I was telling everyone when it first happened, and then I just kind of like got quiet about it for a little bit because
yeah,
um yeah, it's not fun to hear how awesome something was over and over when you weren't there, but it was. I'm happy for everyone who went to the Sphere.
I
I wasn't able
listen,
to.
and that is exactly how I feel about everyone who is at Gamehenge, and I uh I've used my role in the Fish community is to not go to shows and then make a video about a guy who didn't get to go to the show and was mad. That's my role in this community, and I realized that when I was at the Sphere, like, I was walking into the Sphere one night, and I'm all excited, and some guy's like, "Oh, good, dude. I'm glad you finally got into a show because now we don't have to watch a video about you bitching about not making it into the show." And so,
No, you're always a good sport. I went to the tour opener at Orion Amphitheater for Fish
mm,
and saw them play Iculus. So that's where all the rumors began. So I got to see the beginning and then Gamehenge. And I felt like I was watching you the whole time the tour was going on, and you kept it light, you kept it positive, and there was no, the bitterness was perfectly measured and comedic. It wasn't, it didn't, you weren't a drag. You didn't bring anyone down. So don't
thank
worry
you.
about that.
Thank you. And you know what?
You're welcome.
Last summer and last year and New Year's was about me. And so I'm glad that thank you for putting it that way. And no, I it's just too funny to like it's so funny to me like to miss stuff and then have to explain it to someone and then in the middle of explaining it I'm like what am I fucking talking about? And I love Fish so much and like the majority of Fish fans, actually a very small minority of Fish fans saw that show and a
Yeah.
massive amount of people
And I
didn't
feel
and like
unworthy because like I do feel unworthy. I've seen many Fish shows, but I really became a fan by proxy because of my husband.
mm,
Like we've been married 8 years, so granted, I've seen a lot of Fish over the time that we've been together. Like my first Fish show was at Oak Mountain Amphitheater, and it was the time where a comet exploded behind the stage for some
oh
reason.
yeah.
I didn't see it, and I was like, comet exploded. All right, Maggie, what, freaked me out so much. I was like, no, really. And then the next morning on the news, it was like a comet explodes behind uh Fish's
Vermont
like,
band Fish is stage.
yeah, right, the Fish. And I
It's
felt so
always like, yeah.
vindicated. But that was a great environment. But I got on a tangent. I didn't feel worthy to be at Gamehenge because of just the fact that like, I couldn't go toe to toe with you. You could probably tell me what the set list was on like the sixth night of the Baker's Dozen run. I'm from memory. I bet you could. And that's dedication. You deserve to see it. And there's a lot of life ahead of us. Maybe you will someday. But I feel very privileged to have just gotten to see like the pure joy of watching so many people feel like they were realizing a dream of theirs and getting to go in a time travel machine, like you said, and go back to 83 or whatever it was, see the Beatles. But
Yeah.
it was just special. It was like a good moment in humanity to witness.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of bands that can accomplish that sort of a reaction out of an audience by like holding something so close for so long and then finally uh, like it's a bit that you do before the show of like, what do you think they're gonna play? It's like probably full Gamehenge and like it's like
Yeah,
haha, and then you move on. But I felt the same way at the Sphere. Like I'm like looking up. There was like specifically during What's the Use. There's like this big particle ball that they created, and then the particles would like come down and create the band, and the band particles went back up into the ball, and it was like a, you know, um, I'm looking around at the stadium and it's a big place. Like there's a lot of people there, but I'm like, there are just so many people who like, I'm not worthy. And there's so many people who deserve to see this celebration of this band because they've been seeing them for like decades. And
I
I
know.
have a cool relationship to them, like through my brother and through my family and all that kind of stuff. But I felt the same way about the Sphere stuff. I was like, wow, this is monumental, and I shouldn't see 3 of these. I should maybe see these on Instagram where I live, and then people who see shows should go and be at
Well, I
these
saw
shows.
plenty of it on Instagram that weekend. Trust me, I was like, that just all the visual effects and my whole feed was just like, okay, all right, I get it. I wasn't there. So
Super
I
cool.
feel it. Yeah. No, it was super cool. I was very excited. I haven't gotten to go to a show there yet, and I can't wait. I know it's super overwhelming, but
It's cool. It's
yeah.
really a cool
You're
place.
like, I'm not gonna understate it. It's cool. Yeah.
I'm not gonna do the thing where I'm like, and I had buddies calling the next day being like, is it different because of this, or is it not like a show because of this? And I'm like, I'm not gonna do this for you, man. I'm not gonna poke holes in the place. It's fucking sweet. It's really
Karina
cool.
Reichman posted this really funny video. It was like a loop of her posing with some friends, and you could see this one guy behind her just like stunned and looking up at it, and he falls down the stairs because he's so disoriented by the visual. And her cat, she's just like, Sphere is wild. Like, I feel like it's just like this total sensory overload, but someday soon. Okay, Cam?
It is out of control in there,
Mm.
and it is certainly one of my best shows ever. But do you have a best show ever that you ever saw in your life?
Yes, I do. It was Paul McCartney at
Oh
Bridgestone
yeah.
Arena, and it was my first time ever seeing Paul, and he played for like 3.5 hours. I'm not even kidding. And he did these beautiful tributes to George and John, and um, you know, Live and Let Die was this massive production. He had every ever want from the record, like, was on stage. And there was a big chunk of the show where it was just him at a piano, like telling stories, like just the different dynamics of the show throughout the evening. Just it held my attention. Of course it did, but like it was just also felt like we were going through all these different processes that he had of like how he put this music together, and the way he set up stories of songs, and touched on the complicated partnerships he had with his bandmates. It was like just a masterclass in being a performer and a writer. And he was also funny. Like he just had the best banter in between songs. And I was with Austin and my future in-laws, so it was cool to be with his parents and see, how important and timeless this music is, because it means everything to me, and it means everything to them. So it was a pretty emotional night, and I had great seats because of them. They got the tickets. So what makes it even sweeter is that they took us, and we were just like right in the middle, on the floor. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and talk about like I mean it's fucking Paul McCartney. Like he is the icon of icons in the music world, and like he is absolutely that guy, when he's on stage and he like is like, "All right, how we all doing? Great." And everyone's like, "Ah!" And it's like, he knows exactly who he is to people, but that is a like you were talking about consistency with your show earlier, and that's a guy who like, I saw him in 2010. I think I saw him in like 2013, saw him in 2016, and then I saw him like 2021 out here in LA at SoFi Stadium, which was nuts. And it
Yeah.
is a very similar show to the one I saw in 2010 in like in the best way. Like he is not like he has got to present like the Beatles and Wings and himself and this band and his tributes and stories and in a way that's going to make people feel like they saw almost everything that they needed to see, and there's just no way that you're going to be able to see everything that you want to see out of that show, and he's done it like so unbelievably masterfully, like you said. I mean, obviously the performance is great, but like the way that he's constructed that show and the way he leads you into these big moments like Live and Let Die or Band on the Run or
Yeah.
um yeah, all that stuff is just yeah, it's
Well, and
incredible.
I was like, wow, this is gonna be like, one of the farewell tours. Like, how wrong was I about that too? He came out with like his last original releases have been some of my favorite new releases, in like just pop music in general. So he's just so prolific, and you're right, he takes you through all these different lifetimes. He indulges the fans in maybe some times in his career that are painful to revisit even. Like I know a lot of
Yeah.
artists who like I don't want to sing that hit anymore. I don't want to do this or that. But I think he puts his audience first. And maybe that's just me projecting. But it seems just like he's really, really selfless in trying to include everyone who's been with him along the way. And that's hard to do when you've had a career like he's had.
Yeah. Yeah, and like everyone, I mean, these songs mean so much to people all over the
Mhm.
world, and there's just no way you can incorporate all of them. And like you said, I mean, like there's absolutely painful parts of that journey for him, and almost any like if you want to call it like a legacy act, like almost any act of that stature, like a Van Morrison or a Billy Joel or Elton John or guys who are in that like echelon and era like end of their career type guys. Um, yeah, like there's shows that you're not like Bob Dylan doesn't fucking come out and do like a Rolling Stone ever, like and Van Morrison's
No.
not gonna do like, you know, Domino or some
Yeah.
shit like that, or like he's just gonna do what he's working on and then maybe like a redone version of Brown Eyed Girl that sounds different, or like I don't know, like you never know what you're gonna see. And Paul's gonna give you like Love Me Do as
Yeah.
Love Me Do,
Yeah.
and it's like the whole thing.
Yeah, and
And
I
that
think
for
that
all the
th
songs.
you're right, it's a responsibility, and I think I love artists who are indulgent and who do kind of rework things, and Greg Allman was great at doing that too. There's something really cool about, "Oh, I got to see this special version of this song," but there's also, when you're such a figure, a responsibility to give the people what they want, and that's hard to do. It's selfless.
It's an acknowledgement of the art is almost not yours anymore. Like, I need to do
Yeah,
this for you guys because it's your big thing, and
you
he doesn't
nailed
get to
it.
see the Beatles, and
Yeah,
so
right.
he's he's gotta go give people the Beatles.
Yeah, it was a badass show. Pretty memorable.
He's a memorable guy. I really there was a I the first time I saw him was at, Summerfest in Milwaukee. It was at the Marcus Amphitheater when that was still there. It's like a different thing now or something, and I went up to get a beer, and there was a guy like my dad's age next to me, and I'm, like, exactly 21 at the time or something like that, like, very young. And I look at the guy and I'm like, it's really cool. Marcus Amphitheater is like the biggest stage at Summerfest. I'm like, it's really cool. The Marcus Amphitheater, took a swing on this guy. It's really great. I'm like, I can't wait to see more. And the guy was like, and walked away. And I was like, he's big enough to make that joke. I got to be honest.
Yeah,
Paul McCartney's big enough to make that joke, dude.
yeah. Damn, yeah. Little Cinderella story. Kid out of nowhere.
Yeah. I'm just happy for him. I'm just happy for
Yeah,
Paul. Finally,
yeah,
finally
right.
getting his flowers. Um, well, it's been really, really great having you on. I'm so happy we were able to make this work through all the
Me
difficulties and
too.
everything.
This was we stuck with it. Tenacious.
Tenacious, persistent. We never stopped.
But also,
Um,
just it was worth it. It's fun to talk to you. You keep us all entertained out on the road. The whole band loves you. We want to get you to a show soon. You got to come
I
out
I would
out west.
I would really love to come see a show. Yeah, whenever you guys are out here, I would love that.
We'll make sure that you know well in advance.
Okay, good, because I'm awful
Yeah.
at that stuff.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on. A lot of good music.
It's like literally Tedeschi Trucks is in town this weekend. I was like, oh really? I had no idea. It's like completely sold out.
Yeah, and we just did a show with them and they're just the greatest. The
Yeah,
greatest. The nicest people. And just musicianship is kind of mind blowing. Kind of makes me want to just like become an accountant and quit, but no, I
yeah,
won't do it.
yeah. Don't do that. Let's not do
No, I
that.
won't. No.
Don't quit your day job.
Yeah, people wouldn't want me to handle it.
So that was my talk with Maggie Rose. She's so cool, dude. She's so cool. And you know what? She could have rubbed it in my face about the whole Gamehenge thing. She was very nice. I appreciate that. Um, Another musician talking about seeing Paul McCartney. It just keeps rolling along here. It's like this season of this show should be called Best Paul McCartney Show Ever. And you know what? That would be good. That'd be good fodder as well. Um, for those of you who have subscribed and liked everything, if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, thank you so much. Appreciate you. If you'd like bonus content, you want a little bit extra this week, there's a bonus episode on the Patreon. You can get that for $4 a month. You're a member. There's also another great episode out right now for free everywhere with New Springfield Boogie. If you're not familiar with New Springfield Boogie, he has crossed The Simpsons and The Grateful Dead in the most artful, hilarious way you could possibly do it. And so have a great conversation with him. Check that out. And until next time, guys, truly have a great show.